She had a 5-year layoff from the BBC. She's different. Found Jesus.
And
she's gonna come back.
Yeah.
We're waiting.
Yeah.
Dude, do you think that was a fix?
No, I hate when people say that.
No.
I don't hate you, but
You talking about the Conor thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
No.
dumb. Such a bad take.
No.
I'm asking a question.
The question
It's
is
such
this.
a bad-
I have a
asking a
question.
question.
for
It's such a bad take
Let me
because
ask you this
if you know this, hold up, because and I talked about this on the Big Round Breakdown. I get why people want to go to conspiracies. They're fun. I like them more than anybody. And I'll entertain them. Not when it comes to UFC. I won't entertain it, especially with Conor. So you got to realize when Conor touched down, usually athletes have to get on Tuesday. I think Conor came in a day or two late, so he came in on Wednesday or Thursday. The minute you touch down, the Las Vegas Commission is with you.
Mhm.
Okay.
So if he was limping, they would be like, what the fuck? They're going to look into everything, and he has to go through a whole body scan. And also,
Is that true? You have to go through a
and
body
also,
scan?
if there's an AC, yeah. And did you see the things on his neck? So if you followed me during training camp, you'd be like, oh my God, he's injured. If you follow any fighter during a camp, if they get rehab, you go to all sorts of places. You're going to assume they're hurt for the fight. They are, but it's not an ACL tear. Also, if he had an ACL tear, his knee would be out to here.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to walk. So when he tore it in the cage, originally he can kind of move around a little. You'll see he has a small limp. If you post a video of him walking today, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
He's on crutches.
So
My point is with that, it's like, I get it why like people that haven't been there or don't know are like, oh, this is fixed, I guess. But it's like also just the business side of things. So the UFC, they like Conor. They had a big, the biggest ticket sales of all time. That's all good. It's still not $1.1 billion. So if Dana knew this injury was happening,
Sure.
and you think you'd risk TKO, the shareholders, the entire business on Conor? No, that doesn't make sense. Now it's fun. They're like, oh, well, what about John Krause? You're talking about a guy that tried pulling one over on the.
I think people are saying that
on
it
the
was more of
prelim.
Conor knowing that.
No, I was going to ask you this.
He couldn't get by. Not with that leg. Not with that.
But
injury.
people, here's my question.
People get by with, like, I've gone to fights where I had cuts and I put makeup on it and masked it. But when you're talking about straight up like knee injuries, shoulder,
First of all, here's what I was thinking.
Especially in Vegas.
You're
That
always going.
condition's
You're
fucking
also
tough.
going into a fight with some injury.
Some injury.
Right,
And
so-
him going into that place in Newport, it's like, oh, buddy, you follow any athlete, and you're like, he's injured this game. Like,
He just has more eyes on him.
yeah, someone took a picture, like, he's injured. It's like, no, he probably has something in his neck, or he got the suction. You can see the marks. He got the suction done
Big cup
there.
therapy.
Okay, but
Might have got an IV that day.
But wait, so is it possible that his knee was feeling? Because you can see he tore it. Like you can see when he jumped, you could see
Everyone
it.
saw it's torn. That's not the debate. No, it's torn.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
ACL.
saying the idea was he might have known he was injured going into it.
No.
Like if his
No,
knee
you don't
was
do
a little
strong-
trick.
You don't do a jumping kick if your knee's injured. And if you watch the warm up before he got knocked on, he does that exact same kick 6 times, no problems.
Yeah, because he was going to open with that. That was the
Yeah,
plan.
he does it before he fight. Like the Jose Aldo fight, he did the exact sequence he was going to start with.
He seemed
This fight, he did the exact sequence he was going to start with.
He seemed
Nervous.
different.
Nervous.
Yes, very nervous.
5-year layoff.
5-year layoff.
Oh, but I thought UFC jitters aren't real.
Yeah.
Isn't that what some people say out there?
What they say?
UFC jitters aren't real.
I can't imagine the pressure.
5-year layoff.
Can't imagine the pressure.
And
He was-
it's not
he was
only a
nervous.
5-year layoff, but you're coming back and you're the creme de la. You're the guy.
a lot of
Sold out.
pressure.
The Mac
Yeah.
is back. Everybody's there. Everybody famous is there.
Now, I think his nervous came from because he knows the Mac's not back. Oh no,
Yeah.
Mac left about 6 years ago. Yeah, maybe 7.
Yeah.
The Mac is not back.
Yeah.
But the Mac is here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best. Mac's here, so I think his pressure came from he was trying to live up to the expectations of what we thought we were gonna get, and he's like, "Those days are done, dude." And unfortunately, I'm gonna let you guys down.
That's funny. I did say, I'm like, I'll believe it when he walks into the cage that he's going to fight again. I should have been a little more specific. When he lands a punch, then I'll believe he's back.
He was nervous, but also it was also interesting is at 170, what won him a lot of those fights at 55, at
Featherweight.
45 was like his reaction time, his
speed,
boom,
his speed.
that speed, slipping, punching. When you slip, that guy's already gone at 70, maybe. You're slower. You're 30. He just looked bloated. He looked
38.
He looked 38.
Yeah.
This isn't a mystery.
38.
He looked 38. He's going up a weight class.
His face looked
He's
a
gonna
little
be
bloated.
slower. His hair was a little thinner.
Little thinner.
Face a little chubbier.
A little chubbier. little chubbier.
38. Father Time doesn't give a fuck about your storybook ending.
Yeah, and here you go. 100%.
Brendan Schaub and Bryan Callen are back discussing Conor McGregor, which means one man is asking questions and the other is answering them with the confidence of a doctor who received his medical degree from a podcast. Clip. Bryan starts by asking whether Conor's injury could have been part of some kind of fix. Brendan immediately says, "That's such a bad take." Bryan says, "I'm just asking a question." And Brendan says, "No, it's a bad take." This is Brendan's favorite debate strategy. You ask a question, and instead of answering it, he insults the question until everybody forgets what was asked. Bryan could say, "What time is it?" And Brendan would respond, "Terrible take, B, you clearly don't understand clocks." Then Brendan begins explaining how the Athletic Commission checks fighters when they arrive in Las Vegas. According to Brendan, the commission is apparently waiting at the airport, like the Secret Service. The second Conor steps off the plane. 8 officials jump out from behind the baggage carousel yelling, "Show us your knees." Brendan says if Conor had been limping, the commission would have noticed, because nobody has ever concealed pain before a fight. Certainly not professional fighters who earn millions of dollars by convincing everyone that they feel great. Then he says Conor had to go through a full body scan. A full body scan? The way Brendan describes the process, Conor arrived at UFC headquarters and got placed inside a machine at NASA. "Sorry, Conor, before you fight, we need an MRI, blood work, dental records, and a scan of your childhood memories." Bryan keeps trying to ask whether Conor could have already had a weakened knee. That is a reasonable question. But Brendan reacts like Bryan just suggested the UFC replaced Conor with a hologram. He says if Conor had torn his ACL, his knee would have been sticking out, and he would not have been able to walk. Thank you, Dr. Schaub. Next week, he will explain that if your head falls off, you probably have a neck injury. Then Brendan uses the strongest medical evidence available. Conor performed jumping kicks during his warm-up. Case closed. Apparently, if you can kick 6 times before a fight, every ligament in your body is legally required to be healthy. That isn't like saying the car couldn't have had engine trouble because it started this morning. Bryan keeps saying, "But what if it was already irritated?" And Brendan keeps saying, "No problems." They are having 2 completely different conversations. Bryan is asking whether the knee may have been compromised. Brendan is answering whether Conor was physically able to enter the cage. That is like Bryan asking, "Was the roof leaking?" And Brendan answering, "No, the front door opened perfectly." Then Brendan says the UFC would never risk its entire business and its shareholders by allowing an injured Conor to compete. Nothing says safety first like locking 2 people inside a cage and paying them to damage each other. Brendan acts like the UFC is a small family pharmacy. Dana would never allow anything risky. This is a respectable medical establishment that occasionally sells head kicks. Then they move on to whether Conor was nervous. Brendan says Conor seemed different because he had been away for 5 years and was under enormous pressure. Bryan jokes about UFC jitters, and suddenly Brendan agrees that the pressure was real. So earlier, every conspiracy was stupid because Conor was perfectly fine. But now he was nervous, slower, older, heavier, and trying to live up to expectations. That is an impressive amount of new information for someone who just spent 3 minutes saying everything was completely normal. Then Brendan delivers his dramatic line, "The Mac is not back." Bryan responds, "The Mac is here." What does that mean? That sounds like 2 employees trying to locate a missing laptop. The Mac isn't back. No, the Mac is here. Have you checked underneath the desk? Brendan says he would only believe Conor was truly back once he entered the cage. At this rate, the requirements will continue changing forever. First, Conor has to sign the contract, then enter the building, then walk into the cage, then land a punch, then win a fight, then defeat a bear in the parking lot. Near the end, they begin discussing Conor's age and appearance. Incredible analysis. A 38-year-old man looked 38. Somebody call ESPN. Brendan examined the footage and discovered the shocking truth that time passes. Then he says, "Father Time doesn't care about your storybook ending." That is actually a decent line. The funniest part of the entire conversation is that Bryan begins with one simple question. Could Conor's knee have already been injured? And 5 minutes later, Brendan has discussed athletic commissions. But he never really answers the question. That is the Brendan Schaub experience. You ask for directions to the grocery store. Meanwhile, Bryan sits there repeatedly saying, "But here's my question," hoping that one day his co-host will accidentally hear it.